what we are going to talk about is highly subjective in nature, and it doesn't lend itself an easy intellectual understanding. So which means whatever we will discuss may take some time to assimilate cross questions. It's not pretty straightforward as how to operate a mobile phone. So it's highly subjective in nature. And disclaimer 2 related to number 1 is that the human mind understands through what it already knows. Whatever years of life that you have lived, you have gathered some information, built up a vocabulary of yourself. So that comes as an impediment. So we will make sure that whatever words we use, we are referring to it in the same, as the same meaning attached to it, not as words can have, especially English language is extremely funny, so it can have different connotations and meaning to it. The third disclaimer is that what we are trying to understand is essentially understood as an experience first. So this is more of, if you experience this, then you will get it. But if you try to figure out like a mathematical formula, it's not going to have any impact. So experience precedes any understanding of topic of this domain. That I want to mention it before. And the fourth, am I on fourth or fifth? I don't know. Huh? I've done fourth? Okay. Fifth? No, I've done third. Okay, yeah. I'm on fourth. Okay. Dialogues are useful, but if you don't follow up with contemplation, it is useless. So which essentially means that by the time I see more ladies here than gents, or maybe equal number, by the time you go home, it's what you have to cook, your family, tomorrow is Monday, back to work, and I'm sure by next Monday we would have even forgotten each other's face and life takes over. But if we contemplate on what we discussed today, then it will be useful, well time spent at least, and then come up next time with more questions, etc. etc. So these are some disclaimers that are there. So before we come to the topic of integral education, we'll park it for a while, because a discussion must have a broader context, a larger context. A context is a must in which we can have a discussion. So if I were to, let's together build a context for this conversation. If I were to ask you, what kind of life are we living and what kind of life are we moving into as a future? Let me board your answers. I'll repeat my question. What kind of life are we living and what kind of life are we moving into? This is a bit of an introspective question. It demands a degree of stepping back from your own thinking, the roles that you carry. Now this faculty of stepping back is something which is never taught to us. The gaze is always outwards, never inward. So it's always looking out and following things. So take your time. In fact, I'll also help you form an answer to this, but I really want to know, it's a small intimate group, what kind of life are we living and what kind of future are we moving towards? Anyone? You want to take time? Take time. Not an easy question, very difficult question. We may not have thought about it, but this will really lay the context. I mean, I would have started straight away, integral education is XYZ, blah, 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 okay, but thank you, and we go back, understanding nothing. So I've got some estimation as to what kind of life we are living into and what kind of life we are heading towards. The estimation is that we are profoundly oblivious of what is happening outside.
All that matter inside.
We have no idea what's happening outside the world, because we have been made to live a homely life, which is a very small little circle. And I don't know where to start from, but it's like the ORR. You can enter from anywhere and again exit city and enter the city. It's almost like if you've taken birth for whatever reason, the parents chose you to come on planet Earth, and it's a laid out track for you. At a certain age, you're supposed to do certain things. And then at a certain age, you're supposed to look after yourself, which is typically job earning. And then if there is a suitable age, then you get into another institution. And when that happens, then because this happened, then a child must also happen. And then the child goes and it follows this thing. So the cost of living, etc., as he rightly pointed out, as Abhishek also, the whole life is focused on basic survival. And with the introduction of the credit system, the power to purchase things is supposedly in your hand. Yeah, so if you look at your schedule day after day, you would, and if at all you step back, you would see we are on an automaton, on an autopilot of sort, mentally, emotionally, psychologically. The whole economic system, cultural, social life is set for you, and we are all, anyone who's sensitive knows how to step back. Unfortunately, our education doesn't teach that. And when it comes to criticism, it's very easy to talk about children. And I, as whatever is worth last 24, 25 years of work experience, I immediately pause any conversation which criticizes children, because the best thing that an adult can do is open a mental diary and just talk about children with a terrestrial experience of 3 years, 4 years. What's your terrestrial experience? 30 years, 40 years, 50 years?
Yeah.
You add your grandparents, it's pretty unfair criticism for a 4, 5, 6-year-old. They didn't tell you what school you're putting me in. You put them in a particular school without any effort to even ask the schools, what are you doing? What's your vision? How come you serve one teacher with 40 children? Why is there a assembly? Why do they have to stand in a queue? Why is there a uniform? What good does it do to a 5-year-old wearing a tie and a black shoe and a 5.5, 6, 7 kgs bag on little shoulders? We are okay. We are happy living in front of a dustbin. We get so used to the smell that nobody stands up. And yet my child, my wife, my husband. See the hypocrisy of an adult. It is available in free out there. So when you see marriage, when you see family as an institution, you go out and work. And most of the people that I have interviewed, talked, the more the up you go in hierarchy, the more hollow they become from inside. The more diseased they become. Forget, 10 years ago it was 40s, now it is not even 30s. And I'm telling you, the maximum check-ins in hospitals today are because of lifestyle diseases. As he was rightly, it's not because of any natural disease, the so-called lifestyle. And medical fraternity get away with by saying, oh, it's a lifestyle, because they understand nothing of the human body. So when you are caught up, almost entangled yourself in day-to-day, khana kya hai, EMI kya hai, salary aa gaya, fees aa gaya, a lot goes around happening outside your 2,000, 3,000 square feet, whatever you are happy with, house. A lot goes around. And even if you want to know, what will you do? You'll switch on television, let's say 10 years ago. And there you have paid media, which works for political parties and organizations. And they will filter out news to you so that your thinking is diverted towards a particular way of thinking. You would never know the other side of it. And you will not question because your education has never taught you how to question. They've told you what to think. They've never told you how to think. So you stand gullible, vulnerable human being. You'll take whatever is there. While this happens, what I have done is, to cut the long story short, because 2.5, 3 hours is not good enough, and I have still not reached education. I'm just laying the context because it is extremely critical today. You can take a printout if you want. It's a part of my writing and research. 2024, 2023, and I completely agree with the kind of world that you are talking about, AI and all, because that subject I'm going very deep into it. 10 years ago, if we were sitting 10 years ago, we would have talked about 3 to 4 things about life. Today, there is just one thing, which you started off by saying, technology. And I'll tell you why. I won't spend much time on it, but just superficially. We are at a point where there is civilizational disruption happening. Do you understand the word disruption, anyone here? Yeah. And in that, there is an inflection point. You understand inflection point? Two curves that meet, concave and convex. Differential geometry. A concave curve is one going down, convex is the one that goes up. There's two things that are happening, and where they meet is your inflection point. That the meaning of human being is undergoing a radical transformation. Give it another 8 years, 10 years. If you go by their agenda, which is 2030, you would have a hybrid person sitting, I would not know. A hybrid person sitting. You understand hybrid person?
I don't know whether you're a machine or a human being.
You don't know.
It's the truth. It's that scary going to be.
And I have no intention.
No, not science fiction anymore.
I have no intention to paint a doomsday for all of you. I'm saying this is happening. As we speak, it's happening. I'll park those details for a later conversation. But I've figured out a matrix, and I'll tell you there's some disruptive trends that are there into 4 quadrants. One is small disruptions but growing in importance. Small disruptions fading in importance. And on the right hand side, big disruptions growing in importance. And big disruptions which are again fading in importance. I'll just take a few. I don't want to spend more than 3-4 minutes. Small growing in importance. First, right on the top is mental health. It is no longer small. It's right at a quadrant where it's moving towards big. Mental health issues are to be found everywhere. Do we pause and figure out why? And I'm giving you global scenario. I'm not talking India. If you thought Scandinavian countries are best, the Finnish school are the best, you are mistaken. Maximum depressions and anxiety is in Finland, followed by Sweden, Norway, and then France. If you thought they are beautiful countries, आप देखते हैं YouTube में, Facebook में, they have nothing to do. They have reached the end of material progress and they have nothing to do now. I am giving you, for your consideration, mental state of people today. And I am questioning why it is like that. It is a fact. I think last time I also mentioned this, Akila, you would recall. Last year, Kota alone had 27 suicides. Does it make you happy? आप कौन सी मेंटल कुश्ती में लड़े हुए हैं, ये डेटा, ये वो, does it make you happy? I'm just laying, this is for you to go back and think, not to conclude any conversation here. This is a mental fact. And this is not only happening at post-graduation level, this is also happening at school level. We've seen a certain surge from 2011 onwards in teens. Today it is do or die. So, one thing that I've learned is back in our days, what good is this back in our days narrative for today's child? उनको क्या लेना देना back in our days? You've lived your life, okay? Be content. Talk about what's happening right now in their heart, in their eyes, in their bodies, to their nervous system. We live in so much of noise, as he was pointing out. Do you know the damage that noise can do to your nervous systems? So one thing, if you are all takeaway, what's the takeaway from the session? One takeaway is make your children stay in quiet places. Yeah. You would be healing them. And not only let them, all of us need at the first.
You also need.
So you can only give something to the other what you possess.
Yes.
If you have Shanti in you, you can bring Shanti to others. If you have a monkey mind, you will bring a monkey mind to the other. It's simple. Cannot get simpler than that. And you will invariably see children getting attracted to individuals who are quiet inside, who don't pretend, who don't play a role. It's natural for children, it's natural for animals. Because we are scared of animals, we shove them away. I can give you an example. The great J. Krishnamurti would sit a different mind altogether, so quiet that a bird would fly and land on his shoulders and be there for a good period of time. Absolute stillness that gentleman had achieved. Absolute stillness. Everything in synchronity. Is this more important, or a flawed physics which is proved to be wrong? That more important. So small, growing in importance is also, education is integration of life. This is small, but it's gaining importance. Some parents are questioning. Their whole approach of finding out a school, what's happening outside, is so minutely limited and narrow that they have no idea what damage they would do. I'm not saying children should come to our school. There are maybe other better schools out there, but at least have the right questions. And there are many other things, small, fading in importance. Online learning, all of us thought for a while that, the great COVID is there, everything will be online, lot of startup. And the amount of damage that online has done, today we are realizing that touch and feel is all that always be there. You want a copy of this, you can always take it later. Academic examination is fading its importance, by the way. My daughter is now moving to college, and yesterday we were searching we are from Delhi, and our first preference would be Delhi University. And I said, okay, let's figure out Sri Ram College and Lady Sri Ram College, and because he wants to do psychology. There is a CUET test now. So she figures out, I said, okay, so beta, how many marks do you need? Percentage, cutoff, CUET cutoff. So she comes to Hindu college, and she says, oh, Papa, it says, hear me out, 99.75% to 100%. Percentage. 99.75 to 100. And CUET has a negative marking. It's almost catching up like a JEE sort of a thing. And then we pulled out CUET question paper, past. This is the third year running. CUET is very new. Past question papers. She has to do psychology and she has to answer chemistry ke formula ka questions. Mathematics, there are 4 brothers, uski beti utni thi, to uska beta kitna hua? You know, the kind of questions that make you go bonkers. And we are looking at each other and said, why do I need to answer this? And she came to a conclusion yesterday. I hope she stays with that conclusion. She says, good college is not what is required. My own attitude, what are other things that I can do without going to these colleges will matter when I will sit for an interview. She anyway had an integral schooling right through her age, like myself, so I'm not least bothered. This is what we have come to. So the parents who talk about academics don't even know what is happening outside. Who the hell is going to score 99? And this is UR, unreserved category. And do you know why so many, pardon my, when it comes to education, I'll have to speak the truth. I don't care a damn how I'm taken. IT ke andar, general quota is this much. It's, I don't want to give a false figure, but it's less than 30%. 70% of the audience is there occupying seats that they're not even interested in the department. Combined CGPA is not going beyond 4. They can't write. There's spelling errors at IIT Delhi. Spelling errors for which so many others deserving candidates are sitting outside. And don't ask me the suicide rates at IITs. This is what we are entering to. Big, growing and important. Artificial intelligence. I don't want to spend more time, but it's definitely going to change the way we would be living. And they are openly saying this on World Economic Forum, openly saying this. We are not listening. We would rather watch a Kapil Sharma comedy show rather than their commentaries. They are openly saying this. That we are hackable human beings. This is what they are saying. Right? Big, growing in importance, anxiety and depression. I don't want to talk much about it. Meaninglessness. It's my good fortune that I work with educators, not more corporate, but I used to it some time ago. It's the same thing. Suddenly they thought, why, as he said, why am I doing this? But they realize that they are riding a tiger. What happens when you ride a tiger? You can't come. You can't, even if you want to.
You cannot get down.
You cannot get down. Non-linear paradigms, which means that 1 + 1 = 2 is no more right. We've planned for 20 people, 18 registered, doesn't mean that 18 will come. So things are changing and changing and changing. So there is, if you were to go 10-20 years ago, straight jacketed careers, it's very unfortunate that most of the South is STEM based. Very unfortunate. Science, technology, engineering and mathematics. तो एक टाइम पे कह सकते थे ओके डॉक्टर बनोगे बेटा, इंजीनियर बनोगे, whatever. Today there are no jobs any which way. There will be no jobs any which way. 11 years consecutive for IIT Delhi, there is not a single core job being offered. There was one this time in mechanical in a Maruti. This girl got at Maruti. She's a mechanical engineer. 11 years, not a single core job, which means that if you have done civil, you will end up doing banking or coding, which has got nothing to do 4 years of hard work that she or he has put in the institute, because the jobs are not there. And people back home are happy, person is at IIT. Big, growing in importance is dialogue. But you also see cancel culture these days. If I am putting my right perspective, I will be put down by a left perspective. Even before I speak, You know what I'm trying to say? The talk shows on television. Preset curriculum, textbook, standardization, pedagogy is big, fading in importance. Do you know the attention span of a human being today? Today meaning 2013, 2015 study. Anyone? It was in the year 2000, 12 seconds. In the year 2000. 2013, 2015, the attention span of a human Homo sapien is 8.25 seconds. That of a goldfish is 9 seconds. So people are now questioning your syllabus, minimum level of learning. Who decides minimum level of learning? The child is not interested because does not fit into her context. What I want to learn, I will learn what I need to learn. And what I need to learn will be something which is most relevant to me. I don't want to know your science. I don't want to know your bloody geography. I'm not interested. My world is different. But a mainstream school will not allow that. And parents will not question. So when the parents will not question, you would still have 3.5 lakh nursery admissions, children not getting admitted in Delhi year after year after year. The future of nation will change if parents stand up to their dharma of being a parent. As simple as that. Earlier I thought it was wrong with the system. I thought teachers are not good. Today I am convinced if parents stand up, then things will change. If parents walk, my daughter now is graduating from a school, I don't mind naming the school, it's called Keystone International. She is doing Cambridge board. Not even a single teacher is Cambridge certified. And one teacher for the last 4 months is teaching online. Not a single parent go and have a discussion with their academic head because they get away with it. They're not interested. Father is interested in earning money, mother is interested in daily chores. Where will they check? Social media. Not interested. As I said in the morning, sir, I'll tell you why this is also happening. Had those 18 who registered had the priority of coming here, things will begin to change. Our priorities are not at the right place. It is as simple as that. Anyway, we have to move forward. So anyone who is interested can take this copy, can go to my website. I've also published it there, and I'm open to being corrected left and right, but this is a good activity that you must do. As a parent, you have to be informed. If at all you feel and genuinely care for your children. Genuinely care for your children. This school also started as an antidote, maybe, but by teachers who were in mainstream, who were not interested. By parents who took out their child from the school and said, let's do something different. Well, integral education has an old lineage, as given to us by Sri Aurobindo. It's not an alternate education. How we are being nudged to become a different kind of a human being versus... So the fight today now is just one, between that kind of a life and a conscious life. So any education that addresses conscious life, is it worth exploring now? Or have we missed the bus? Or is it too early? I'm asking you questions because I really need to understand. Integral education we'll talk about, but...
Can you also help us define conscious life?
We'll move towards that.
No, I think we nothing is too early or too late. I think whenever we can start, we should be looking for some kind of education which gives them a conscious...
Yeah. So we feel here that we have already missed the bus, but nevertheless, we should address it with full force and energy with those who are open to exploring. We are not in a business of... The other day, another parent asked me, Ramya was asking why, we should be convincing parents who come here. So my whole idea was, we are for conviction. We are not here to convince any parent. Like many other, we don't have a brochure also, nothing. How it works is through word of mouth only. We just started to doing, we are collectively a very shy school because we've been there for 12 years and yet we are known in small pockets. We think that those parents who would buy natural food, are health conscious, perhaps also look for a school which is likewise for their children, but I don't have any data to prove it otherwise, because most of such families also put their children in the best of the mainstream schools. So ये data है नहीं, but Abhishek was of the opinion that those who are health conscious will also be food conscious and they should also be education conscious. Do you think this is right? So any nodding familiarity with what education means? जब आप education सुनते हैं, what does it mean? When using this word, and I said in the beginning that we'll make sure that we understand the word that we use and not just get away with saying learning, anything else. So just pin it down to what it actually means. So when the word comes education, let's define the scope. What do you mean by education? उसमें हम schooling भी include कर लेते हैं. Let's get bit more child specific. I'm okay now getting bit more child specific. Use the word education. Use the word school. What is it? Yeah, so that's it. This is the silence that I have been getting for the last 20-25 years. What kind of education have you explored or read or being informed?
Waldorf,
Okay.
Montessori. Then lately now Indic system is come, IKS is picking up.
What is that?
Indian knowledge.
Indian knowledge system.
Okay.
Not that I have come across.
Okay, so integral education is an education thought given to us by Sri Aurobindo. So integral education premises itself on integral psychology. Okay, this is the first thing. So if you really have to research and understand, so you have to, I'm just laying down a flow chart for you, then you must understand what you just mentioned, Indic. I don't know what it means, but if you understand integral yoga, if you understand yoga system, if you understand Vedanta, if you understand all of that, you would be better positioned to understand what integral education is, because it is premised on a certain philosophy. Whereas the mainstream schools are premised on curriculum and textbook. And I don't know how many of us, but there's a lot of words out there. And I read the bus, जब bus जाता है ना इनका, so preparing future leaders. Preparing genius.
Spoke about leadership in nursery when I went to
Nursery?
Nursery
Yeah.
like what leadership skills will a nursery kid
Yeah.
learn? I just-
So, holistic education. Nobody questions what is holistic. Right? So they get away because they have to distinguish one school from the other. How will they do? These are the 4 or 5 keywords which keep roaming here and there. And they will invariably, you will see there is a telescope, uniform, and that's the picture they will put on buses or their brochures. Telescope में बच्चा देख रहा है, तो मतलब यही smart education, science, most of it. यूनिफॉर्म करके सिंगिंग कर रहे हैं, गिटार बजा रहे हैं. This is how pictorially they would communicate with the parents. They'll send their message to the parents that this is what child becomes. I'm just sharing this because you need a reference point to understand a point. That's the only thing. I'm gone beyond criticizing mainstream school because it's not even worth my time and breath. The monsters all over, I don't care. We will do what we have to do as a parent. So the integral school is given to us by Sri Aurobindo, which bases itself on integral psychology. Okay, that's one. Now, anyone who can say what does the word integral mean? Anyone who knows the word English integral? Because again, we need to define every word. So that's why the name of this school is the Integral School, not a Blueberry School. Now if you open a Blueberry School, what does it mean? What on earth does a Blueberry School mean? But anyway, integral, what does integral mean? So the word for integral is Purna. You see, our language is beautiful.
You don't have to explain.
You don't have to explain. You don't have to explain. So, Purna means, again, I use another word, complete. One whole, which may have a lot of parts, but each part is a whole. And complete. Complete means absolute. There is nothing else than that. It's complete. So that is the word, integral. Now, an integral education could also mean, because the word integral is also used by Ken Wilber. He's an American philosopher. His is also called the integral leadership. So he has also used the word integral. So don't get confused by. But when we say integral, we mean in an Aurobindonian sense. We mean integral in the Indian sense. There is no trademark on integral. Anyone can use that. I'm just clarifying so that there is no confusion left once you go out of this room, because tomorrow if you were to talk about it, you must know these things. So the integral education could also be called conscious education. It can also be called consciousness-centered learning. For all my leadership program, I call consciousness-centered leadership. It can also be called psychic education. I'll tell you what it means. A specific word called psychic. I'll tell you what it means later. So if you are saying psychic education, consciousness-centered education, conscious education, all of this could mean integral education. This is a play of words, but we need to understand this. Now, integral education takes up in its stride the whole complexity of human nature. It doesn't concern itself with textbook. When I was asking you what does education mean, the first thing that comes is a uniform, a school, a textbook, or academics, for example. It doesn't take that into consideration to begin with, but includes this and goes much beyond that. So the whole complexity of the human nature, what does it mean? What does the whole complexity of the human nature mean? Yeah, let's start with the most, I'll involve you in answering this rather than me speaking. What's the most tangible? Physical form through which we manifest everything. So the whole aim is that the body be perfected and present itself as aesthetically, in its movement, in its health. And health, taking a leaf out of what he just mentioned, what is the Indian meaning of health? The Sanskrit meaning of health? Anyone?
Swasthya.
What does swasthya mean? Just understand this so that tomorrow you can question anyone who talks about physical culture. What does swasthya mean? So, sthit in swa, yani ki sthit in self. That is the meaning of health. Swasth, that I have established myself, in my true self. When I have established myself in myself, then I am not in dis-ease. So therefore disease. Disease invariably happens because I am not sthit. There are two gatis. One is sthit, which means you have established yourself in yourself, which essentially, we'll talk about what it essentially means. I will not get diseased, and therefore I am swasth. But when we go out, we talk about everything other than this. So we use the word health, where fitness, etc. is one part of it. So the grossest, the first one is your body, right? Manifesting harmony, beauty in how we sit, how we walk. Look at the way, Arun, you would acknowledge this, look at the way you would have our children walk. I'm giving you tangible examples. I don't want to make it esoteric or mystical in my explanation. So very practical examples I'm giving. And when I say children, invariably I'm also addressing adult also. Okay, so there is no escaping the adult. And I always say this, they have heard many a times, when the lift opens and when you have to get in, you have to get out. There's no civility in people, no sense of spatiality. If a woman is coming, I'll step back rather 2 steps and let her go. If elderly is going, I'll step back. And I'll consciously move with my foot there, and I'm conscious of what I'm aware actually. Forget conscious is the highest state. Mindful, aware and conscious. This is how we progress. We're not even mindful. And I have seen this when I walk 6 to 7 every day in apartments, and I see, invariably you will find a child on a bicycle, and I'm in front. The child is not aware that I'm in front. And you look, and you look, and you look, you don't find one child who's aware of his space, occupied, shouting, yelling. If I have to ensure that I don't hit, he will not make sure. He or she will not make sure. At age 4, 5, 6, 7, I'm talking about. Forget anything else in life. If we don't know how to walk straight, what are we talking about? So the first aspect of our physical nature is the body, right? Harmony in how we walk. And for that, if you have to see it, you must watch gymnasts, especially the Russian gymnast. If you were to look at the flexibility in their body, where does it come from? What is manifesting through their body? It has to be something greater than the body. How does every cell in their body, every cell in the marrow of their bones come alive when they perform? We can't even sit properly with our straight. We can't. So that's the first body. What's the next? Which most of us are. Next aspect of the human nature. What's the next?
Mind.
Before that.
Brain.
Before that.
Nervous.
Language,
Huh?
communication,
Getting close. What else?
thinking.
Thinking comes later. 90% of times, what do you see people as?
Linguistic ability.
90% of time. Did he die? I did. You get lost. Oh my, I'm tensed. Huh?
Arguing, communication.
So your whole set of emotional, psychological being, right?
Okay,
Most of the times.
the monkey mind.
Not mind, your emotional state of being. You live in an emotional state all the time, which is the second layer, which we call in integral yoga, vital being. The word vital comes from vitalis, which means pran. Pran means life and it means breath. The whole seat in our physical culture where likes, dislikes, grudges, passion,
Prejudice. Yeah.
greed, lust, so on and so forth. Very tangible. Now, can you think of a person who lives in the vital? These are all layers of personality. Who lives in the vital? What kind of person would that be? Certain characteristics. Who put out a vital personality? I've just told you what vital is, the emotional aspect. So, for example, I tend to be living most of the times in my mental being, which is most of the intellect. And I'll put out, whenever 99% of time you would see me as a mental being in front. And forget me, anyone who lives in the mental being, what characteristics would they present? Like, if I ask you, do you know me? You will make an estimate by the way I have been with you last 2 hours, right? But you will never know me. Because we are born with 2 curses. What is the first curse? Thou shalt not know thyself. What's the second curse? Thou shalt never know another human being. It's impossible. And yet we make assumptions and we say you are like that. Why? Because that's the personality you are putting forward. So how would a person living in emotional state be? Never be a listener. That person can never be a good listener. Will assume things. Will want to fix. Vendetta, want to fix. And so on and so forth. On the good side, that person could be very emotional also at the same time. Very loving, hugging, would go and love people, is very helping. One news and shout. That's the vital part of us. Now, what would a person who lives in a mental consciousness be like? That's the third layer of your personality. जिसको हम बुद्धिजीवी बोलते हैं, one who lives in the intellect. Tell me, how would that person be if you have ever come across a person?
Listener.
Fantastic. That person will be a listener. He will listen to you. Listening is one skill which is not there. You don't listen. Either the body is giving some discomfort, or we are thinking right now what's going to happen after 6, tomorrow's Monday, what to cook. We are not there. Even if we are there, and as I said in the beginning, one disclaimer, we understand through what the mind already knows. So the blocks will come. And Krishnamurti has talked a lot about listening. To listen to each and every word. We never have a samvad. We don't enter the other person's mind to listen, appreciate, which is called the Purva Paksh. Entering into the consciousness of the other person. What are you trying to say? So it's a small story. Are you interested in a story? May I?
Yes.
So if I remember the name correctly, so I'm forgetting the name of the person. This is Shankara's time, Adi Shankara's time. So they were in those days, if you have occupied my territory, I can reclaim my territory by samvad only, by question answer. And if I defeat you, with all humility, the other person will accept. So that territory will be given back to you. So there was this conversation that was happening between Mishra. Okay, now I remember the name of the person. Mishra was there and Shankara was sitting in front. It's a very interesting story. And Bharati was the wife of Mishra who would listen to this conversation. She would be the judge. So they started questioning, etc., etc. And these questions involved a lot of grahast jivan. Grahast jivan means married life and all of that. So Shankara began to give in reply, etc. So Bharati says, wait. You are not a married man. You don't have a life. How do you know about all this? So Shankara accepted. He said, I may take your leave and I'll come after a week or 8 days, whatever it was. Shankara enters a body of a dying king. Enters the body of the dying king. And lives the life of a grahast for whatever days. Then the king dies. Shankara is back. Okay, now ask me questions. This is symbolic actually. It may have happened to us. And then when the questions were asked, here came the reply, tuck, tuck, tuck. And then Mishra accepts the defeat, becomes the disciple of Shankara. Bharati, which is now called Sringeri, right? That you would reside in Ma Saraswati, and the temple will now be called as Sringeri temple. Look, Didi, what I'm trying to explain here is, we don't listen. Forget understanding the other person. How do you even, in fact there is another initiative that we have started called Ekagrat Samvad, which means how to have dialogues. We can't have dialogues. We are, it's something called amygdala hijack. Even before having a dialogue, that part of our brain is emotionally hijacked. Then what happens? Then blood pressure, slow breath, and then lack of words, not proper word. One word you tell to the other person never comes back and it's done. What is so great about schooling and that's the reason why even in corporate log aate hain, listening skills seekhne. You bloody idiot, you 40 years you're leading a bloody team and you don't know how to listen. You need a training on leadership. Who hired you?
Another idiot.
Huh? Another idiot. So, a group of idiot. But position high, salary high, everything high. But we must, you must register for a training where you will learn how to listen. That basic. So, see, even fundamental to this is, why am I not listening? That's okay. That you can enhance listening with various techniques. Why am I not listening in the first place? There are two states that we are in. Chetan, Achetan. A conscious state and an unconscious state. Most of the times I am in unconscious state, automatic living. A result of my hereditary, result of my DNA, result of my prabhav, result of all the smells, the food, whatever my parents told me, the do's and the don'ts, the cultures, the religion, the belief system. If I were to ask you who you are, you'll start saying, my name is this, I belong to ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. None of us will ever state an ontological fact about ourselves. It's all your belief system because you're born in a particular culture.
Some conversations.
Yeah, so that's the disclaimer I said in the beginning. The mind knows and listens through what it already knows.
Exactly. Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, even fundamental to that is our state of being. Whether we are in a conscious state or an unconscious state. Slight disturbance in the body, slight thought right now when you are listening to me is an achetan state, a state where you have digressed, dissipated. It's called vikshipt chit. You're living in a state of consciousness which is distributed everywhere. So when you gather yourself and when you are there with full attention, then you will listen. So an education that addresses this aspect is conscious education. Yeah. And next layer is the mental. You all started by saying thought, mental. So how does a person who lives in a mental consciousness behave? You said he will listen. He will be factual. Before anything comes up, he said, okay, let's look at the fact. Let's do a bit of an analysis. He will never react. All reactions are from emotional beings. All reactions. Because you are putting that part of your personality in the front, which 99% of people do. The real buddhijivis live in the mental consciousness, then begin to react or respond. Actually, they respond, they don't react. Anyone living in a vital consciousness is always in a reaction mode without realizing what harm it will do to the other person. But a mental person will, number one, will live out of samatha at all point in time. So one personality that you are putting up is your physical, then we came to your emotional, psychological states. Subtler than the vital is your mind. It's extremely subtle. And subtler even than the mind is your psychic being. Now the word psychic being comes from the word psyche. Sri Aurobindo deliberately not chose the word soul and Atman, deliberately. Why?
It's a religious science.
Yeah, so it has a lot of cultural connotations attached to it. It could be a Christian soul, a Gnostic soul, or a Hindu soul. So he chose the word psychic, which is, by the way, a Platonic word. Socrates, Aristotle, Plato used this word a lot. So it's a Greek word, psychic. Psychic means the innermost or the inmost part of your personality, which is not conditioned by anything. So if you imagine, if you start living out of that state, which is behind your, all that you know, you erase all that. In fact, in Vedanta it is said that even one knowledge that you possess, even one thought is there, you are a conditioned being. Even the scriptures, they say, burn all the scriptures. It's very daring to say that of the Hindu culture. While the others do whatever theatrics that they do, it is mentioned in our scriptures. And even burn the scripture, if so be, if that's what it is. But a state of being where you are not at all conditioned. You would not realize most of our movements we gather from the culture that we live in, from home, the way we design our spaces, the kind of food that we eat. This is not anything to say to people in South, but I am saying 99% of the time they will invariably eat only South food. But those who come from North, I mean, back when I was in Delhi, once in a while I would definitely, South Indian food will be cooked. But here I've seen I have not seen people eating rajma or chole or paneer or aloo for that matter. It's the lowest consumption here. I'm just giving you a perspective. Just stick to what it is. So your personality also becomes so. There's one person I've seen who eats everything. But by and large, I've seen stick. Now, an education which premises itself on the psychic is conscious education. That is why here we keep saying that we will keep the parents out. No interference with your child. And we come to know when they come to the school. First look and we know what happened in the house. That is why parents' participation is equally important, if not more or less. Otherwise, we are fooling ourselves. A child is living in contrary cultures, one at home, one at school. And the child is too immature to even express this confusion. And before he or she realizes, it's too late in the day. Then what's the great deal? Every ass has a family. Every dog has a family. Every elephant has a family. What is so great about our families? What's so great about being a wife and a mother and a father? Nothing. So the whole effort is to bring, now tell me, the person who is living out of psychic consciousness, how would that person live? Can you imagine? Think, a person living out of his or her true consciousness, which is greater than the mental, the vital and the physical personality. Unconditioned, living in absolute silence. Knowing things not by textbooks but by identification, influencing the mind. When the mind becomes quiet, intuition begins to operate. And when intuition begins to operate, you would know without textbooks and everything. Talk to any businessman, he would say, I have taken a decision not on the basis of that bloody presentation. No matter how much analytics you may do, analytics anyway is fraud. But any businessman, you study the Tatas, you study anyone, they'll say, I was able to look beyond the numbers. And there came the answer. Ask a cricketer, how come this shot has come about? Said, I don't know. At the time when when the bat hit the ball, I was not thinking. Ask any singer. How did this performance come about? They will never be able to tell you. Dance performance, they will never be able to tell you. They'll say, I was in, something else happened. In fact, they will not even talk about it. For the moment you talk about these experiences, it's gone in the first place. A person living out of psychic consciousness will be sincere. Do you see sincere people? Whatever they will think, whatever they will talk, whatever they will do will be one integral expression of their personality. If it hurts someone, just too bad. They value sincerity. I would rather be sincere than pretend, which will be backed up by a courage. We need courage today. We are telling our children to be smart. पड़ोस का बेटा भगत सिंह होएगा, आप नहीं. You don't go out, come. Arey, what is your problem? Let them fight, come. Physical courage, bahubalam. Intellectual courage, buddhi balam. What bal are we giving to our children? Tomorrow, I don't want to make this controversial, this thing, but tomorrow if you happen to interact with some other people from some other cultural background, we can't even defend ourselves. Hai nahi kuch, there's nothing here. And we won't be able to defend ourselves in debates. As I said, cancel culture is happening because we don't know how to do a samvad. So a person who's living out of sincerity, gratitude, You see this? Gratitude for the littlest that the other person has done for you. The littlest. It could mean just offering you a glass of water. Gratitude in giving away all the knowledge that I have. It is without expecting anything. ये तो expectation culture है ना. We are together because if you do this, then this sticks. If you do this, then this sticks.
Yeah. And this expectation from you, you have to do this.
If that doesn't happen, then you are bad.
Yeah, then you're bad. You're not a good wife. You're not good.
If you ever get hold of a person who has no expectation, never leave that person in life, whosoever that person may be. And such people will stand for truth, never get carried away by what the media is saying, what the parents are saying, nothing, with all humility, not aggression. Our children are having aggression. So this IIT, when I was sitting with the counselor, she said that, Lavlesh, what's happening? Anxiety, depression to purana ho gaya. This is given. This is part of the package. They're getting angry. Certain anger. And she connected it with psychologists. Of course, she connected this with the use of social media and all. A lot of anger is building in us. A lot of anger. And our teachers in the school, the conformity, textbook, exams, etc. is again building that. So before living a life is already dead, like dead water.
They are already dead.
So it's said in our Shastra, no, who is a dead person? He said a person who is alive need not be alive. He is dead because there is nothing inside. No curiosity. So a person living out of psychic consciousness would be sincere, will have gratitude, will have the courage that we need today, will be able to intuit ideas, phenomena. Then when a person is living out of psychic consciousness, can excel in academics. Why? Because then that person can go from phenomena to principles, principles to meta patterns, meta patterns to cosmic frameworks. But this is being now shortcut by AI. What they're saying is you need not think. I have a huge problem at IIT where our students are using ChatGPT in their labs. When I've given an assignment, so we have a software that checks plagiarism. And there's a whole dashboard that runs and says this much in red. I said a simple essay I have not given to you, and all result of your mainstream school. Rote learning, tuck, 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 tuck. So true academics is when the human mind can open to the possibilities, reasoning mind, ideation mind, illuminating mind, so on and so forth. They're all hierarchy. I don't want to make it theoretical. But they want to cut it. They are saying that the number of function that AI can perform is far better. And we are convinced, far better.
But will they identify the crux of the things
No,
which
never.
Psychic mind will...
Never. If you put everything in binary, then you are gone anyway.
Yeah.
Right. So an education, and I'll close because it's 6, an education, and I'll be open for questions, that attempts to bring the psychic being, the soul being in front, more than the emotional, mental, is called integral education, ancient Indian education, conscious education, etc. Now, I don't have the time to go into the details of how we do all this. That I will leave for some other day. Imagine a culture, Richa, imagine a culture where home and school, where sincerity is a norm, gratitude is a norm, quiet time is a norm. Imagine that culture. Courage is a norm. You want to do that? Replicate same at home. If you can't, then why are you together? Why did you marry together? Why did you produce your child then? Who will get up? Nobody will, because we want to be smart. वो भी करते रहो, ये भी करते रहो. Children are gone any which way because they are growing up in that environment. So what do we do? They will say, "अरे इतना क्या सोचना है? Let's go." That is why the schools are blooming, because they know this. Give me one mainstream school ka owner who is not a lawyer, who is not a builder, who is not a rice merchant. 3. None of us are in pain.
We are all in pain.
We are not. If it was, then the world would have been different. We have gotten used to the kuda outside, the smell of it. We've gotten used to it. We go to bed and sleep, knowing the austerity that our children are facing, knowing what is happening outside. Pain nahi hai, bhook hai. When bhook hogi, then food. Live without food, no? 11 days, like the Prime Minister did. Live without food for 11 days. The food comes here. What Bernard Shaw once said, evolutionary appetite. We don't have the evolutionary appetite in us. We think that the caterpillar is the caterpillar, cannot become a butterfly. This education means a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. It's okay. Everything is fine. सब बच्चे स्कूल जाते हैं. अरे सर क्या बात, you are being overcritical. Everybody goes to school. Are they all idiots? The time will come where I will stop saying that maybe I am idiot. So you continue. I meaning those who are trying to do this work. There are many who are trying to do this work. We are not in pain. We are not in crisis. Anyone who tells you we are in crisis is falsifying. We are not in pain.